Hi, my name is Newell Davis with World Composting, and today we kind of have a joint video. So I'm going to do an update on my urban worm bag, and also I have been tagged. And what that means is that somebody has tagged me in their video, that person being Emily the Crazy Worm Lady, and she wants me to answer some questions. So those questions are, why vermicomposting? Why YouTube? What do I raise, or what varieties of worms do I have? What is my favorite worm, and then my favorite system, and then I'm supposed to tag some people. So this is the first time I've ever tried something like this. So this is gonna be a combination video. I'm gonna start digging around in the bag, and I'll start answering these questions as we go and see what you think. I'm gonna leave links to all of the sites that I visit and or YouTube channels that I visit, and also I have one on there that's not a vermicomposter or a person with gardening, but it's somebody that I actually like watching their videos a lot, and I'm going to include them as well. So let's go to the bag and take a look at how it's doing. I have some food ready to go, and I have some bedding just in case. Just so you know, I'm not going to show you, but there is no more leaking out of the bottom since we kind of turned things up and got that moisture out of there. So it's been doing really well, and let's take a look at it now. So here is our bag. Let me bring you up here a little bit. All right, so here's our bag. Let's take a look in here. I have opened it up and added some coffee grounds. It's starting to maybe dry out a little bit in here. This is not quite as wet as it was before. Still worms in it though, even in this top section. You can see right here, there's some worms. So now the first question is, why vermicomposting? While we're digging through here and just taking a look. I know that you're not supposed to dig. I'm just trying to give you an idea of what's going on underneath. I normally wouldn't dig, especially as it gets more full. I'm probably just going to leave it, and that way it'll just slowly all work its way through and it'll go down. But for right now, I'm more of trying to show everybody what's going on in here, and I want everyone else to do what you're supposed to do, which is just leave it. You add bedding to the top, you add food to the top, and you just keep going. So, but anyhow, so we still have the worms. They're still looking good in here. You can see. But the first question that came up was, why vermicomposting? Now, I've started vermicomposting quite a while ago, but before that, I used to compost all the time when I was growing up. My parents, they had a lot of food. We had a garden, and we even back in the early 90s, I mowed the yard and we put all the grass clippings that we in a pile, and we composted. I mean, we threw food scraps in there, we threw leaves in there, we threw a whole bunch of twigs and stuff that we'd grind up, and I'd sit there for hours chopping them and throw them in this pile, and it would compost down, and then we'd get this nice rich soil amendment that we could put in our soil, which was at the time 100% clay. So that was my first experience with composting. Now, for vermicomposting, the reason why I went into it is, and before I say anything, I'm going to say this needs more food. So I'm just going to dig down here just a little bit more, just take a look. Definitely needs more food. I'm not finding any food really scraps in here, so we're going to add some more food other than these coffee grounds that I added a while ago. So now the question is, why vermicomposting? So, and that is a really good question. The reason for me was, believe it or not, I don't have a yard as big as I did when I was growing up. I grew up on a half an acre, and I had a lot of space, and we just had the room to do it. So it was no big deal. We just threw a pile out back, and and where I live now, it's not really the case. I don't have that type of room. I don't have that freedom. So that's why I'm doing vermicomposting. It's something I can do in my basement. I don't have to get approval from my HOA here to do it. And it's something that also is still a good soil amendment. So that's why I'm doing vermicomposting. And the other reason why I've always been big into composting is, one, I don't like throwing stuff out if possible. I like to reuse it or recycle it. And also, I don't like giving this stuff and throwing it in a landfill when really it can be in my backyard doing good for me. So I feel like I'm wasting it. So that's my reason for vermicomposting. So now the next question is, why YouTube? Now, before I did YouTube, I actually tried a Tumblr blog. I'm going to add some more bedding here. And the idea behind the blog was to just kind of be like, look, I've got worms, if anybody wants to learn, and nobody really ever visited. So I kind of got discouraged by that. And and at the same time, I was watching videos online on it, but most of the videos were poor quality. I'm going to add some eggshells here, by the way, just to the top of this. Most of the videos were really poor quality. They had lots of useful information, but a lot of them were just somebody who, let's see, what would they do? They'd have pictures and they would, talk. So anyhow, that's my update for now on the urban worm bag. Last, real quick, I'm going to come back to me here and scroll back up here. And so, I'd have these people that I'd watch, and I'm like, well, they're great. They have a lot of information, but at the same time, they're not really showing me anything. And I'm a visual person. I like to see something. I mean, I can do something I can see. If you say, pull this pin, and there's 8 pins there, that doesn't help me. But if you show me, hey, here's all 8 pins, this is the one I'm pulling, I know right away what's going on. So I'm a very visual person, and because of that, I wanted to make videos for other people. I started, actually, I had to write it down, but started this in 2015, and I've been composting, or vermicomposting, I should say, since 2011 when I got my first set of worms. So I've been doing this for quite a while now. It's been 7 years, and I've been doing this for 3 years with YouTube. So I really just wanted to share. At the time, I didn't even think about making money off of it, or to reimburse me for like buying worms and bins and stuff like that. But that sort of became like an extra little nicety to it. But really, it was because of the fact that I wanted other people to learn, and there wasn't a lot of good quality out there as far as videos. Now, the next one is, what do I raise? Well, all my videos have red worms. That's all I have. I've been debating on getting some other worms. If I do get to 1,000 subscribers, I will put up a poll on which worms to get next. But I have thought about it. It's a little harder. I'm raising them in my basement. It's 70 degrees in here, and between 70 and 78 depending on the temperature. So I can't have something that needs really cold or really warm. I need something that really is adaptable. And so I think African night crawlers might work, but they might be a little bit chilly down here. And the other one is the European night crawlers, which I've heard really good things about, especially in these temperatures, but they also like a deeper bin. So we'll see. We'll probably get some of those hopefully later, but we'll have to wait and see. My favorite worm, red wrigglers. I mean, that's what I have. I would actually like to have a slightly larger worm that I could maybe use for fishing. These are typically kind of small for fishing, unless I raise them in a bin that is really, really moist, and then they tend to get a little bit bigger. I want to say that what's probably happening is that they need a little bit more muscle to push through the material that's in there, and they end up getting a lot bigger than what they were. So that's the only thing. I would like to have some worms I can use for fishing, but other than that, I do like the red wrigglers. They've worked really well. They've stayed in the system really well. The first time I ordered worms, I won't say from who, they all immediately left the bin and died. I think that they were blue worms. So these have worked really well. They've never left the bin. Actually, when I put them in there, I thought that there was none because they just disappeared into the bin, it seemed like, because I had so much material in there. So, I had a big bin at that time. So, it's one of those things where that's the way it worked. Now, my favorite system, I have multiple systems. I have obviously the urban worm bag, which I'm using right now. I have a Vermibag Mini that I'm running at a school. I'm going to have the Max up and running soon, so I'm going to have a few bag systems that are these continuous flow-through systems. I also have my 10-gallon tote systems, and these are all great systems. Now, actually, I'm going to disconnect this here. Hold on a second. I'm going to show you these here. So, I have the bag, which we just saw. I have these totes, and I've got a whole bunch of them here, if you can't tell, and actually I had more than that going before. So I had these totes that I used, which I really liked. I like the fact that they're easy to move around. They're, simple to empty, really. I then have my 35-gallon continuous flow-through bin right here, which works really well, but at the same time is it's not, I'm not able to move it. I mean, this thing weighs a ton. I mean, I might be able to get out of there if I had 2 guys I could get on either side and lift it, but it'd be really hard to get out of there. And then I have the system that I ran for a long time. This is actually the first one that I built, and it failed, and then I built the 35-gallon. But this is also one that is a flow-through. It's on a tray right there. So those are all the systems that I have right now in the house. And I have to say my favorite is probably these totes. And the reason why I say that right now is that anybody can do them. They're very simple. The hardest part is when they start getting stacked more than 2 and you get up to the 3rd level, it becomes really hard to always remember to put food in this bottom one, which is why I've had one die before. I thought I was adding food to it. I had it mismarked. So I labeled these bins here, like this is bin T. Well, I had bin B, and then I had a bin B underneath it, and I kept thinking, oh, I fed bin B, so I didn't feed it, and then eventually it just died. I had a video on that. It was a horrible mistake. I wish it didn't happen, but that's why I also show my failures. I don't just show my successes. So I want to say that this is probably my favorite system. Now, for somebody who's only going to run one system or has the space, these bags so far, they seem to be a really well-designed system. It's better than these that I built myself. This thing is very inconvenient to use. It's really, really hard to get compost out of this little hole here. I mean, this is only a few inches wide. You know, it's, what, 4 inches? So it's very hard to get things out of there. So this, I'm hoping with the this right here on the bottom, I'm hoping it'll be a lot easier to just pull material out of there by unzipping. So very high hopes for these, but so far I still think for simplicity's sake and for starting out, I think these are some of the best systems you can get because it's just cheap. So that's my thought on that. Now, I'm also supposed to tag a few different places that I have gone to get information. Now, as I said, I've been doing this since 2015, so there's really not that many places that have been around longer than I have really for worms. And the only one that I can think of is Larry Hall. He was posting on some of these other websites that I went to for a long time. And he is one of the few people that has been around longer than I have. And he was the one that I was telling you about that has these great videos, but at the same time, it's just pictures. There's not a lot of substance to them. He has a lot of great information, but it's just a picture. And you know, it could have been a podcast, and that would have been a better format. But it's definitely one of the few sites that I went to all the time when I was really learning how to do this before I even ever got worms. So with that, the other site that I have is Northwest or NWRedWorms. And I went to that site because they also, I think, sell worms, but they just had a wealth of information on their website as well, or website and YouTube channel. And then the other one that I started going to after I started doing mine was Brian the Worm Man. And then the last one that I'm going to mention is London Worms and Garden. And he has some interesting videos, and he kind of shows some different things as well. See, these are the channels that I've really go to frequently to get information. Now, I want you to tag these people. I want you to go to their sites, do the same thing that I'm hoping they do the same thing I'm doing, and say who they go to. Maybe we get some more sites out of this that have more information, which would be great, I think, for everybody. Now, the last website I'm going to mention is Seth's Bike Hacks. I happen to be a bike rider. I'm not great at it, but I love watching his videos. I love how they're edited. I wish I had the ability to edit like him and put together a video that is just engaging from start to finish. And I really enjoy his videos. If you can, you don't have to tag him, but go see some of his videos and let him know that I sent you. You know, I really enjoy watching his videos. I watch them as soon as they come out typically. And I've been a fan of him for a while now, and he just does a great job. So again, thank you, Crazy Worm Lady, for tagging me in your video that you had. I will also have a link to all of these YouTube channels down below. And that is my update on the Urban Worm Bag. It looks like it's doing well. I added more food, I added more bedding, and we'll see how it goes from there. I also did some crushed eggshell there just to make sure that the pH stays right, because I might add I might start adding things a little bit more quickly to try to get the population up. So as this food starts going, I might just start really ramping up the amount of food I'm putting in. And that way they'll start maybe consuming more and moving through this material a little faster. Now that the cardboard in the bottom and everything and all that shredded paper sort of, it looks a little bit more consumed and deteriorated, I think it's time to start building it up and build up to the point where I can start harvesting. So far it's working well. It's still movable but heavy, and it's not leaking anymore. So I've definitely found that this is a working system. It's just a matter of how it'll be to harvest it. That's the question. So thank you. I know this is a long video. I'm sorry about that, but a lot of stuff that I wanted to talk about in here because of being tagged. And please check out all the links and subscribe and like this channel. And thank you very much.